the life force of your bond. A power like life itself, unseen for generations. A dyad in the force.
How's it going, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Dyad in the Force, episode 162, the one about Crosshair's trauma. Yeah. In the past week of the Bad Batch, we had episode 305, or season 3, episode 5, and we saw Crosshair finally rejoin the Bad Batch, and we're going to be talking about what happened in this episode and what transpired to make him, I suppose, endear himself to the rest of the Bad Batch. Now Wrecker was a little bit more simpler in this regard. He was like, Omega, trust him, I do it up for me. So, that's why we love Wrecker.
How's it going, Choco? Yeah, oh, now you just have me thinking of, our big old golden retriever boy. Wrecker's the best, And I know, like, the villains get all of the subtle, the complicated storytelling and stuff like that. And it makes sense, because when you go into Wrecker's mind, it's like food, and the sound of the air whistling through his ears. So,
shout out to Zena in the chat, Lothal Youngling. How's it going, guys? Hello, Josh. Greg's is actually nicer, in my opinion, if you wait a little while before eating it after you buy it. It still tasted good after all those hours in my backpack. I mean,
my sister used to. They used to have a. Oh crap! I can't remember what they're called. But there's a certain thing she would always get at Taco Bell, but she wouldn't eat it that day. She always liked it better the next day. And I always thought that was the strangest thing. Enchilada is what they called it, which is not a real thing.
Hello there, guys. What's going on? Kenny, how are you all?
Kenny, great to see you.
Echo right now? It should be fixed.
Although I'm picturing Echo being kind of overweight, and it's funny to me.
How's it going, Master James Kenobi? Thank you for the heart. Hello, Caden.
I smell profit.
Connor super chatted a $2.51 ramen drop. £1.99 from Connor. Dobru boobaloo baloopta uruba dub 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 shock are you?
Gotcha.
Okay, but was that different? Because that said £1.90 pence. I don't recall that being the call out before.
No, it's certainly, it's always read out in USD, so that looks like it's telling us both. That's interesting. Thanks for the ramen drop, Connor. Always appreciate you and your support. Caden in the chat says, or asks, did Dooku know about the chance of being evil? Or wait, what?
I have no idea what that means.
Did Dooku know about
the Chancellor being evil?
Oh, the Chancellor.
I would assume.
Yeah.
But yeah, he knew Palpatine's identity.
Because I just watched the Box episode in Clone Wars, and he's trying to capture Dooku. Oh well, no, that's just he's keeping up airs. It's a ploy. It's a ruse. It's like when he's captured by Grievous, he's like, "Oh, no, can help me." Or when he loses to Mace Windu, and Anakin shows up, he's like, "I'm too weak. I can't take this anymore." Even though he's literally just zapping himself.
Yeah, he has a fountain of electricity pouring out of his hands as he's surrounded by the corpse of dead Jedi, and he's like, "Oh, too weak." God,
I smell profit.
Connor super chatted a $2.51 ramen drop. £1.99 from Connor. One more for the fun of it. Glug glug chug shug pugsh.
Glug glug
shug pugsh.
Sick plug. Thanks, SH14. And thank you, Connor.
And the Oscar goes to Papa Palpatine. Yep. Man, Papa Palpatine reminds me of when Marino Santino in WWE used to call people by like such ridiculous pronunciations. I don't know if you watch WWE.
No, I left at
After
in the
Attitude?
in the Kofi Kingston era.
Did you leave after Triple H called him out? He's like, didn't you used to be Jamaican? So Santino Marino, he was a very, very like uber, I don't know if it was Italian or something, but uber Italian. And like, he would always have this voice. And so he would have like this backstage drama with John Cena. And he's like, believe what you want, Zonchena. and John Cena would laugh, and then he would cut a promo towards Batista and be like, "Oh, you're strong like Batista." So that's what that made me think of, Papa Palpatine. But thank you for the 2 ramen drops. Always appreciated. Let's see here. Do you agree the Crosshair shadow on Omega implies he'll sacrifice himself to save her? Which shadow?
The Hedgehog.
The clearly black-coated one? What? I haven't caught up. I haven't really been keeping up with that discourse, but apparently there's a lot of people that disagree on the coding of each character in Sonic.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was always, Knuckles is black, Tails is gay.
It was in the first episode this season. It could mean something. I don't know if it'll mean he'll sacrifice himself. So I'm under the and Chalky, you can sound off after this. I'm under the impression that Crosshair has been redeemed, and any chance of him dying is a foregone conclusion.
In my head, the same. I mean, I just, yes, they could do it. I just don't. And of course, I've been wrong a lot.
Yes,
so
we have.
feel free to completely ignore me on this one. But like from a storytelling perspective, I don't see what the benefit is of killing him at this point. Like, I think as the clear leader of the Bad Batch and the one clone that has all of his stuff together, I still see Hunter as the narrative choice to go, and essentially having Omega step up and replace him as the only other person that can do all of the things.
Yeah.
Everyone else is super specialized. And we're beginning to see it with the sniping, and she's going to have her own little cross gun.
The energy bow.
Yeah.
It makes narrative sense for Hunter to be the one, especially with that reunion that they had. I think, Crosshair's trauma and the suffering he went through, all of consequence of his making. He chose it, but he went through a lot and went through the trauma of losing, which we're going to talk about later on in the episode, like losing his brothers in a different way. It all makes sense for his character, but he never really was close to Omega, and I feel like narratively you got to go for the punch that packs the most muster. Let's see here. Young says we get Tech back. Tech lives, but we actually lose my grumpy sergeant. We got that idea from you. And I maintain that, because I never really considered it until I saw that video. If you guys had the ability to make a Star Wars project, what would it be and what medium is it in? So I would like to, we've talked about this a lot. lately. Or
Yeah, but that's why I like to make new answers each time.
I think I would make my Star Wars game. And it would be like, even though I've answered this before, I feel like because we haven't gotten it, I'll keep reiterating it. It's a Star Wars kind of either duel or fighting game using For Honor's fighting mechanics with its kind of stances and manual direction attacks and defense. But I also really want a like Fahrenheit, Detroit Become Human type of style game where choices matter, you know. But go for it, Choco.
Yeah, I mean, my mind went straight to games as well. So I typically try to make a new one. This isn't going to be a new one, though. It just with some of the older Star Wars games coming back, I really do think that we should get a game that is both narrative driven but also has PvP content. But what you would essentially have is your own squadron of clones, of 4 clones that you control on missions, and it would be a lot like Republic Commandos, where you're controlling these multiple people, but you would also have it kind of be more live gameplay-y, kind of like what's it called? I mean, honestly, it seems similar to like Dragon's Dogma 2, but that's not out yet. So I'm spitballing here. But Dragon Age, where you have your people. And as you play the game, as you progress the story, they start to grow and they start to change. Like even physically, the person that you have do most of the strength related stuff starts to get stronger, you know, it can become bigger. And as you're playing through the game, like their individual personalities and strengths really start to show. You can upgrade each one's armor and things like that to accentuate the stuff that they're good at, or to, you know, fix drawbacks. But you'll have a main one that you're controlling, and that's your character that you drop into PvP and in-game stuff with. You know, you play it with other people. And I think you could do, there's tons of things you could do with that. You know, I've been trying to figure out, like, I mean, my mind pitched it as like a Star Wars, like Destiny 2 style thing, where you can, you know, have different weapons and go to different areas. But man, you can also Helldivers it as well and have a droid foundry goes off and you have a whole bunch of droids coming at you, and then there's I see unlimited potential, but where you can have a strong narrative story but also endless in-game content.
Yeah, that was going to be my amendment to the Helldivers thing. You know, just Star Warsify it with clone troopers, and I mean, they're literally, you know, that's what Helldivers are. As your troops like fall in the field, you're just dropping new Helldivers. It's not you, you know. And just like with the automatons, you can have the droids. We can think of any other number of factions to put in there, but essentially it's the same thing. John, thank you for the galaxy. Appreciate it. Deadpool, thank you for the 10 roses. Let's see. The Crosshair shadow was on Omega's face in the first episode of the season. Not a coincidence. I mean, I don't think it's
no, it's not a coincidence, but I don't think it means he's gonna die, though. I think that was, yeah,
his shadow looms, but I think, I mean, and then that's not to say it doesn't mean anything either. You can for sure hold on to that and see if that, you know, kind of pays off in any way. That's just not something that we personally, or I personally, think is going to result in his death or anything other than his redemption, because
and that's what it was for me. The shadow meant was emblematic of his redemption, that he was going to be getting out, because in the very first episode he was defeated. He wasn't going anywhere. Whenever they talk, he's like, "Don't try to escape. Don't include me." Like, and all this stuff. So for me, the shadow meant that she would be able to change that, and I think it would have played more powerfully if we didn't get all 3 episodes. If we had to wait 3 weeks, then yeah, I feel like that's where it would have really shined. Also, it wouldn't have been like as apparent seeing the faucet dripping all the time if that had been stretched out over a few weeks. But yeah, that's how I feel.
Kenny says, mine will always be Pod Racer, again with new races, new tracks, and new ships. I mean, we do need a racer, for sure. Pod Racer Wipeout style.
Or, you know what? Here's my unique one. And it's just No Man's Sky, but in the High Republic, right? And it's charting hyper. Yep. And you can choose to be a Pathfinder, or you can choose to bring supplies and like set up routes and stuff. You can choose if you're going to work for the Graphs, or or if you want to be independent, or the Santecas.
Yeah, there's a whole host of potential ideas for a Star Wars game. It's that kind of like sprawling of a franchise, like bounty hunters games and fighting games.
But could you imagine though if it was like that and procedurally generated, and the community was able to actually chart and set up its own hyperspace routes, and if the community had to find Planet X, or you could find secrets that point to other things in the galaxy. If you accidentally ran into a lane of Purgles or something like that, there'd be a lot of really cool stuff you could potentially do.
One thing that I've always held close to my chest is this high concept for an RTS FPS. This is a game.
How?
so hear me out. Obviously, the larger
your turn.
No, the larger details is yet to be fleshed out, and of course, I would need a room full of designers to kind of help me, cover all bases and stuff. But the high concept is that you start out as a grunt, as you do in Helldivers, and you level up, you attain ranks, and once you hit your prestige and you hit the admiral ranks and you hit the higher ranks, you're assigned a ship, and the ship that you command turns into an RTS, where the orders that you're playing through on the field as a grunt, your objectives, capture this, capture that, comes from a player who's playing the RTS. So the player that's playing the RTS drags a marquee over a group of soldiers and points them to a base or a factory that needs to be destroyed. You get handed down this order in the FPS mode as a grunt. It's like, orders coming in from Admiral Akbar or something. And then your platoon is like, oh, we need to go capture this outpost or destroy this droid factory. And that's how you get your objectives. It's very much a huge, ambitious live game that depends on people being live all the time, like you having an admiral that's playing the RTS portion and people playing the FPS portion. But I've always tried to think of solving that problem of having someone hand down orders from the ship, and then as the ship, just like in the Helldivers version, someone in the ship who's controlling the stratagems that you're calling down and controlling those
Someone's
bombardments. Yeah. Essentially, so we were talking to Chase about this the other day too, about controlling your your starships and controlling the turbo lasers and stuff. But I think essentially the first round of balancing would be if you could RTS your plan of attack and then dive in to the FPS version and play one of the squadrons that are out there. And then the other squadrons that you've commanded are off doing their AI or their NPC stuff. Okay.
I mean, as soon as you said it, my brain went to probably, what is it, Soul Calibur 3? Maybe? But they had a separate game mode where it was like a board, and you could have cavalry, which were faster but easier to defeat. You could have slower moving, but each one of those was also represented by a fighter of your choosing. So you're trying to take over the map, the other side is pushing into the map, and so you can leave the little characters to fight or whatever. Or if it's like your cavalry against their ground people who are going to be more powerful, you can hit a button and go into it, and then you would be your fighter character. They would have their fighter character, and you would have some type of handicap because they were favored to win. And then you would just, use that game mode to fight through it. And I loved that game mode. I loved that game mode so much, and it never came back in any other Soul Calibur games.
I just
does that ring a bell? Do you remember that at all?
I don't remember that portion of the game, but I just thought of an interesting application, or an interesting practical example of how this would work. Let's say you're in the RTS portion of the game and you are just kind of controlling your squadrons and building new units, and you're attacking. Let's say one of your units is having trouble taking something over. So what happens? You're like, press the button. What does the button say? Assume direct control. And down down on the bottom of the field it goes, assuming direct control. And then you come down as one of your troops, and then you give them that fighting edge. It's crazy. There's a lot of balancing issues, and there's a lot of like live game stuff that's totally dependent on the player base, but it's an interesting concept that I thought it's an interesting design challenge. But let's see here.
Now I see someone in the chat says, and I apologize if I'm not making fun of you, but Dwayne says, do you think we'd ever get and it meant to put Darth Bane movie or TV show, but it wrote Darth Dane, and my mind went to Dane Cook. And if we got, and I would have watched the hell out of a show of a Darth Dane Cook. That sounds really, really funny.
Blue Eagle Gamer says, I'd like a new Jedi Order game. The multiplayer side game as Jedi versus Jedi training matches. Okay. Kenny says, I saw a video of Ventress versus Vader. Could be in one of the episodes. I have a lot of thoughts this alone, but thoughts. Ventress versus Vader. In a lot of ways, Ventress challenged Dooku. Was a challenge. I don't know if she had it in her to defeat Dooku. But do you think Ventress has it in her to put up a fight against Vader?
I mean, yeah, she would definitely be able to put up a fight against him. I think all of her strengths are his weaknesses. But don't do that. It feels like people want to see Vader in stuff, but as soon as he's in stuff, they complain that he's not like a god. Yeah. But then you can't have it be a game if it's, you know what I mean?
Oh, I don't think they were saying that as a game. They saw a video of Ventress versus Vader.
Yeah. I mean, overall, it's just one of those weird situations where technically we don't have much to definitively say he would beat her, but he would have to beat her, you know?
Mm-hmm. I think essentially what it comes down to is I defer actually to Anakin versus Ventress. And Ventress got a good one in on Anakin. That's a closer matchup. But like we said, like Yoda is one thing, but dark side Yoda is another. So it's kind of like how does the landscape of the battle change once Anakin goes to the dark side, right? He's obviously not 10 times more powerful, but his penchant for, mercy goes away, and his
but with Ventress it was never there. Like, that's how Vader would beat people. It was by playing up the dark side angle of just being a malicious monster. But you can't do that against a Ventress. She was already there. But we also have to ask ourselves, what Ventress? When?
Exactly.
When is Ventress?
Which also brings me to, like, Ahsoka. No, now, we see Ahsoka versus Vader. We see that potentially Ahsoka could have beheaded Vader if she didn't,
if she
pull her punches. And Ventress also can, pull up on Ahsoka, and Ventress gave Anakin the scar. So this is when I say, like, the only people that Vader ever dominates in the comics, at least, if you don't see a lot of it in the movies, is when he's surrounded by rebels. He's surrounded by weaklings. He's pushed to the limit by Kirak. He's almost beheaded by Ahsoka. Ventress gives a run for his money as like Anakin. So it's kind of like a lot of these warriors, a lot of these fighters that are classically trained Jedi could, like, Obi-Wan defeated him. So like a lot of these people who are classically trained could potentially defeat Vader.
Yeah. And then, of course, there's always the thing of it's always
Sunny and Ellie.
Dependent on it's always dependent on how good you're feeling that day,
Yes. The hunter argument. Person A can be stronger than person B, but person B on their best day can defeat person A on their worst. But I also feel like Vader was always having his worst day. I don't know. I just
there's a lot of weird
subscribe.
parts. Because, like, Tarkin beat Vader.
I don't. Thank you for the rose, Doza. How's it going, Doza? I don't subscribe to the notion that Vader is an all-powerful, all.
No, neither do I, and he shouldn't be. I think that makes the character worse. But
I think when he gets whopped by Palpatine, it's clear that obviously he's subject to a larger power, but Vader for the most part is a looming shadow for the rebellion. Never for people who could handle themselves. And even in the original trilogy, it's a matter of, like, Obi-Wan and Yoda being like, you're the one that has to do it. Like, nothing's gonna. I'm like, and I'm pretty sure Yoda thought for all of the years he's on Dagobah, if I go confront Vader, I'm gonna kill this guy. And I don't want to do it because Luke and Leia, when they were born, he had this very specific future planned out. That's why he hid them. But Yoda was never one to, and that's why we say, man, if Yoda went to the dark side, Yoda was never the one that's gonna be like, all right, just give me like a couple years, I'll go in and kill Vader. Like, he's he definitely accepted his defeat and said there will be a time for this.
Adina said if it's Dane Cook, he can do the fast food bit. It's like,
where do I
Whopper
go?
no onions.
Where Whopper my bride? Wait, is it Whopper no pickles? Which is my order. I don't like pickles on fast food. I gotta have better pickles.
Done at the BK Lounge.
Vader was truly trying to kill Ahsoka. He never was in the same place with Luke, and that's kind of the point, Craig. The reason Luke was able to save Vader was because Vader, at his heart, was never going to truly commit to destroying his son. And like, this is why we always say 40 years later, it was always the spark of Padme that was going to redeem him. It was not Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan failed him, just like Luke failed Kylo. It was, the spark. In my recent videos about the Dyad, Rey, born from the darkness that manipulated Kylo, Sidious. She held on to Kylo's light, and she's the one that's going to save him. And so in this regard, Luke is not, with 2 weeks on Dagobah, he's not going to give Vader the fight that Ahsoka and Ventress will give him. He's not classically trained, but he does have that, you look just like your mother. He has that family bond, Kenny says the video was saying that maybe Ventress could know who Vader is, and that is how she dies.
Well, okay, so there's this weird idea that got really popular because of Kenobi, but it was that everyone that knew Vader's identity had to be killed, and it's not really true. Like, he's not Batman, like there's no one cares who Anakin was. If it might irritate him. The actual issue is he just likes killing people. That's so it's a little bit different. But yeah, I would hate it. I would honestly hate for Anakin to be the death of Ventress.
Oh, the way canon is right now is perfect for Ventress. Even looking forward to what we're about to see in the Bad Batch. So let's move on to the next segment, and it's going to be a really quick segment, but I do want to talk about it a little bit, and it's a subject that's near and dear to my heart, and I hope I don't break down. But I grew up on Dragon Ball.
Same.
I grew up on the Chrono Trigger series, and Akira Toriyama did the art for Chrono Trigger. He's the author for the manga of Dragon Ball, and
which is why when you look at the cover for Chrono Trigger, you're like,
yeah, is that Goku? I mean, is that Trunks? Thank you for bringing that up, because I was about to break. Akira Toriyama has passed away, or he passed away March 1st, and he's a large looming figure in the anime community. As the Dragon Ball manga author, he, inspired people such as Kishimoto, Oda, a lot of people who are very popular right now. Jujutsu Kaisen, My Hero, Naruto, huge figure. And I want to think of like a phrase that's equivalent to like rest in power for Chadwick. Like, is there a Dragon Ball version where we're like, I know one of the mangakas said, if only the dragon's wishes were true. is that selfish, you know? But do you have anything to say about Sensei?
Yeah, I mean, and I never make any posts like these because I never know what to say. I never feel like my voice is adding anything of value. But I mean, that's where my love of anime started. Before I even knew that what I was watching was anime, was racing home to try and catch the next episode, on Toonami after school, and trying to draw characters in my notebooks during class instead of paying attention. Yes, that's ADHD is a hell of a hell of a thing. But yeah, that's where it all started from, and the storytelling that he did in there, and obviously it was emblematic of certain things, and I mean, the character's name is Son Goku, so like that's not in and of itself unique, but how that story changed and evolved over time has absolutely influenced everything, everywhere, and you either see it referenced directly, or you get to the next level where, I mean, now the popular thing is to have a character who is overpowered like Goku and is trying to figure out how to deal with it in the regular world. He's touched everything. He's made an indelible mark on what constitutes storytelling globally. And yeah, I mean, that's all I got.
I guess my suggestion for this is probably rest in spirit. Rest in spirit, Bomb.
Thanks for sharing your energy with us.
Yes, thank you for sharing your spirit for this Genki Dama. We all know that a lot of your inspirations lives on today with our current most popular anime, and will continue to inspire people moving forward. I don't know what they're going to do about Super, the manga, because there's still a lot of untold story there, but hopefully they find some way to finish that, some way to provide closure for that. But that's the quick segments. We wanted to respect Akira Toriyama. Thank you for all of the stuff that you've done, and Kamehameha. Okay, so as we move on to
Rest in Turtle Wave.
as we move on to our main segments, Bad Batch episode 5, we'll catch up with the chat here, who has continued to talk about Vader. Let's see here. Vader doesn't enjoy killing people. He feels like he has to in order to keep himself alive. Someone who enjoys killing people wouldn't always kill as quickly as possible. Well, if you read the comics, his first,
he's indifferent to it.
Yeah, his first tactic is to kill people. When it's the rebels, his first tactic is to kill. When he's facing Kirak, his first tactic is to put innocent lives in danger to one up Kirak.
But also, you also have quite a few things like Lords of the Sith, where upon boarding the enemy ship, he just grabs the comm, turns it on, and breathes into it because he wants to terrify the crew as he go and then go down and hunt them. He's a monster. Like, that was a monster tactic.
Now, when we get to certain encounters where he is not first to kill, it is because it is personally in his interest. Like when he meets Afra, when he works with Corday. No, not Corday.
Yeah.
Is he Corday?
No, it was Sabe.
Sabe. When he works with Sabe, it's all in his own personal selfish interest. Others he kills immediately. You know,
Yeah.
when he lands,
He absolutely
surrounded by the
wanted to kill
rebels.
Thrawn.
Yeah. When he lands and he's surrounded by rebels, and it's one of the issues in the Star Wars run. He just kills all the rebels. When there's no one there that could possibly suit his personal interests, he kills first. Now, I think there is a point to be made, Craig, about whether he enjoys it or not, or if it's just something that he that is just necessary for him.
I mean, we also have in the Star Wars 2015 comic, right? Because it opens up with a visit from Jabba's emissaries, quote unquote, because there was rebels there. But if you read the Vader, and after that he goes and visits Jabba the Hutt. But if you read the Vader run, he goes to see Jabba the Hutt first, and they're like, "You're supposed to be here tomorrow," and he's like, "That's official. This is personal." And right after he leaves Jabba's place, he just goes and murders a whole bunch of sand people.
I mean, that's Anakin for you.
Like he was like, it was on the way. like it's yeah.
It's the literal definition of "and your children's children." You know. Kylo Ren Fire Radar says, "To kill is not a luxury; it's a gluttony to silence us all." That is profound. Cal Ford in the chat says, "I think a truth people don't like to acknowledge is Prime Anakin would have been Clone Wars Anakin without the weight he puts on himself from past trauma and anxiety about Padme's future. So not Vader."
Yeah, I mean, I think there's kind of two arguments, right? Because before he had the potential to be more powerful, but I would argue that him not having any other way out while he was Vader was in a scary way, freeing to him. And so, I mean, I do fully believe Vader is his most powerful. He just does not have the same potential.
Yeah. And that's the distinction between full potential Anakin and Prime Anakin. I think Anakin in his prime is when he is at his prime. But, being Vader he falls out of potential. So in a sense, Vader isn't, and we're careful to make this distinction because they are both the same person. But him being Vader is not Prime Anakin or Prime Vader. It is the utility of the word prime means like this is the best it'll ever be. Then we can possibly say that's Prime Vader because it's not getting any better. It can only get worse if you loosen some screws and hotwire some wire.
Apex Vader. I don't know.
But I think a Prime Anakin exists, and that Prime Anakin is just not as powerful as other people. I think a Prime Anakin could be, an argument can be made for Prime Anakin on Mortis, but that is amped, and that is very, very specific, circumstantial scenario. And the only reason Vader is more powerful than Anakin was the dark side. Just as Yoda says, quicker, easier, more seductive. Vader is able to access the wildest of strengths, but it's easy. It's quick, and it all comes at a cost.
Yeah.
So the Bad Batch episode 5. This is not the return. Is this the return?
I don't know. I actually never check out episode lists.
I think this is the return, because at the beginning, in the beginning, We totally glossed over and made ourselves wrong. They all went to bed. Wrong. They all went to bed, and we're like, let's just sleep on it. And then they woke up the next morning, and then they're like, where's Crosshair? And they're like, I don't know, he's just off in there. He's just he's on the beach doing things. I don't know, he's awkward.
Where's Crosshair?
He's practicing his sniping skills. His hand's still shaky. And his shot accuracy has gone from 100% to, what was it, 53%?
I was gonna say 52. So yeah, that sounds about right.
That's it. 53, 52. And then of course things are awkward between Hunter and Crosshair. Wrecker being very simple about it. He's like, Omega, you trust him? I got you. That's good enough for me. That's why we love Wrecker. Peyton says, pretty sure it was 52%. Not that it really matters. Well, we pride ourselves on being accurate as accurate as possible, so it was 52%. He shoots like a stormtrooper. No, stormtrooper is at like 0.5%. But yeah, things are awkward, and they need to. they've concluded that the only way they're going to get any more intel is off of this of Nalase's data pad, which leads them to a now defunct Imperial facility that Crosshair was at. Now, this is something that I didn't think was going to happen. I actually didn't think about that. I thought that was way in the past. That was just Crosshair's catalyst to start thinking differently. But Choco, what did you think of this part about revisiting this space?
I mean, personally, I thought it was great because this was the site of the greatest change in Crosshair, and so if you're going to make him try to connect with people, this is the way to do it. You know, I did think it was. It kind of broke me when he went in and he found the helmet of his friend. But it was also at this location that he found out that the clones were essentially considered obsolete, problematic. They were guarding stormtrooper armor, right? They were guarding what they were going to arm their replacements with. And now once those replacements rolled out, it also makes sense that this outpost was no longer needed.
Yeah, that was Crosshair's first kind of encounter with the realization that as much as he was going to be a good soldier and following orders and thinking it was the right thing to do, it was staring at him in the face that they no longer had a use for the clones. They were on their way out. They had little to zero respect, probably more on the side of zero. And yeah, they were expendable, and that was Crosshair's. It almost broke me too, to see him, because like, again, I didn't think that they were gonna visit this facility again, and it almost made me kind of like resent Hunter for like seeing him like place these things like in a very compassionate way, and Hunter's like, what are those? Or something like that,
Well, interestingly enough, though, Crosshair always considered himself to be above everyone else, above the rigs. And when he was at this place, he realized that the Empire doesn't see him as any different than any other clone. Right? They don't care at all. And so this is the first time he was forced to really, the only other people that the only Regs he ever did anything with was like Rex, who was a cut above the rest,
And even then there was some tension,
Yeah.
in the Bad Batch season 1. Who are you? My captain is Hunter,
Yeah, it's not special enough.
But then they there's this kind of this point in the episode where they figure out that the sensors are not keeping away raiders, but keeping something in, which is the Thresher Moth from Mass Effect. I'm sorry, never mind. Just a sandworm from Dune. Just kidding. Never mind. It's a monster that is subterranean and tremor-like. But I point out this moment because it's an interesting play on the dynamics of the Bad Batch boys, because Crosshair and Hunter have the most awkwardness. Crosshair and Hunter have the most to get over, and so they're the ones going out there, and like this monster is kind of this stand-in for the tension between the two. It's like, how are we gonna handle this? I don't know. You go down there. I'll stay up here. You know.
I go this way. You go that way.
And Wrecker is just in the thing. He's like, oh, I'm fine with everything. You know.
No, but I love that Echo is the one that really recognized this. It was like, no, let them listen. They're gonna fight, whatever. It'll be a thing. Let them punch through their feelings.
Yeah. And you pointed this out in the episode too, which I thought was funny. Is that Crosshair handles his problems the same way he handles everything else with his rifle. Like, he's literally digging a hole just by shooting at the snow. I think eventually he resorts to the butt of his rifle, but the standout of this episode is Batcher. It's just he digs out the facility door, he digs out the hole, and then when they finally resolve the monster problem and they're out of harm's way, Batcher like goes up to the worm. He's like, What? The monster goes away.
You know what? Okay, this is super weird. In the very beginning of the episode, Omega wakes up, in the ship, and like she comes outside to find him. But she has this little like sweater vest thing on. Where did that come from? Was that what she was wearing before? It didn't. It's like a knit sweater vest.
Probably Fee was like when she.
You need to have some little girl's clothes on the ship, please.
Or someone on Pabu like crafted it and was like, in case you get cold at night, and that was like in the drawer on the Marauder or something.
Yeah,
just something they put away. Young says Crosshair and Hunter are two sides of the same emotionally constipated coin. True. Oh, that's true. Shipping Liana. Liana probably gave that vest to her. Yeah, that makes more sense. See, what would you do without Young?
Not much.
But then it comes to a point in the episode where Crosshair has to he has to come forward with not the whole truth, but he has to come forward, and he tells Hunter, listen, I've done things, and he realized that he was wrong about he was like, I thought I was following orders, I was being a good soldier. And then, wow, it's so weird trying to imitate Crosshair but talk normally. It's like you try to be wrong, but then you say wrong. It doesn't sound right. I've done things, I was following orders, I thought I was a good boy, but like but Hunter is like, we've all done things, it's just trying to be better or trying to do better. And I thought that was an interesting quote, but he's essentially correct. And I think
shout out to Knew Better to Do Better.
I know that we disagreed on this during our breakdown of the episode, but I think that Crosshair needs to tell him what. I know that you were like, no, he doesn't need to, but, and I'll let you sound off on that, but I truly think it would make Hunter more receptive to Crosshair's wrongs by telling him that, like,
No.
I lost my clone brothers, like, more so than you guys. Like, I thought I was being better, and I realized the Empire just didn't have anything in my future. And they were trying to throw out my clone brothers, and I couldn't do anything. So I killed him. I killed him off as that.
He was wrong. I mean, should he tell him? Probably. but communication is not his strong suit. He's a straight shooter, but he leaves very little nuance in.
That's true. That's a pretty succinct way of putting his personality and his skill. He's a straight shooter, no glancing shots at all. So do you think Crosshair and Hunter are good, or do you think that there's a little bit more room for understanding between the two?
Oh, I think they're as good as they ever were. No.
Interesting. I think they were better. I think there's still some issues to be resolved there, because I think more so than betraying them, he did hunt them down, and he was actively adversarial.
I mean, that is true. No, I just mean the worst that could happen has happened, and they're still together, right? Or they're together again. So I think it's one of those. It's like when you're little and playing hide and seek, and you're like, "Well, they've already looked here, so I'll hide here now because they will never come back here."
It'll be the last place they look.
Yeah, that type of thing. He's like, he's already betrayed us. He's already hunted us down. He's already tried to kill us. So, like, what else he got? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I can trust he's not going to do that again. He tried it, and it was wrong.
That's true. I do think that something that needs to happen, and I think this is when it's going to happen. When I say that Crosshair needs to tell Hunter. Crosshair also needs to tell Hunter what happened to him. And I think since they kind of sequestered themselves on the ship while Hunter was kind of going through his stuff outside, they don't know that his shooting is kind of
Yeah, that's going to come
broken.
out in a very bad way.
They're going to go back to Tantus. They're going to try to rescue people, possibly Tech. And he's going to miss his shots. And Hunter's going to be like, man, what's wrong with you?
He's going to miss your shot, but Omega's going to hit it. That's what I'm betting.
Yeah. That's almost a certainty, but like I think that's when that's the extra that if Crosshair does disclose to Hunter, he's going to have to. Like, what did they do in Tantus? And this is a huge thing. What did they do to him on Tantus that made him so shaky? Was it the continuous re-education, reconditioning? Like, this question is going to come up for Crosshair when Hunter sees that he's shaky, but it's also going to come up when they find out that Tech is also going through the same thing. When they find out Bug Eyes is Tech, and he's acting like Crosshair, and he went through reconditioning. It's like, what happened? Crosshair's like, they try to re-educate us, like subjugate us. My hand's all shaky now. I can't really hit my shots. And then all the truth of the matter, the truth of what they do on Tantus will be revealed through that regard. Cal4 non sequitur says, let me rephrase now that I'm home. It may just be me, but I feel like Anakin's highest potential was if he never fell. If we took Clone Wars Anakin and unburdened him and gave him time to grow under Yoda and the Jedi Order. Of course, that's a valid pathway to explore. I mean, with anybody really, if you take away what did them in, essentially.
Yeah.
I think the strongest Ventress will ever be is if never mind. Spoiler alert.
Well, I mean, no, but a lot of times the conversation is still dark side Anakin, but with his pieces being the most powerful. But I do agree that if he even just attaining emotional maturity, he would have been so much more effective.
Yeah.
Just in general.
I think for the most part, like people will often miss the whole point of Yoda saying quicker, easier, more seductive. Like, and they, of course,
but
this
not
happened
more
with,
powerful.
Yeah, this happened all the time because Drew is a self-appointed Sith fanboy who wrote the Old Republic in a way where the Sith were more powerful, but they're not. No Jedi except for Yoda has ever been afforded the narrative clarity and the narrative room to achieve, let's just say, Star Wars' version of enlightenment. And Choco is disappearing.
I'll be there.
I'll be there. But no light side individual has ever been given the room to achieve the height of light, the height of, this is why.
We also have the Superman problem to kind of deal with, because even if you have achieved the highest of the light, most people's power level is measured through martial skill, which wouldn't be a factor.
But this is why I point out to Yoda. When he fights Dooku, he's whopping him. He's treating him like a child. Like, if you read the novelization, he's literally saying, like, he's a step ahead of, like, Dooku by 4 steps. And he's just pushing him, and like Yoda's toying with him. And when it comes to the Force, he just absorbs all the lightning, and he has the knowledge and he has the power to withstand anything that the dark side can do.
Man, I used to just rewind and rewatch Yoda fights over and over again when I was growing up. I loved it so much, and then I would get made fun of. What? You're so stupid. Yoda would never fight with a lightsaber. That, like, missed the whole point of his character. Yeah, that's what people used to say back then.
Wow. I mean, listen, knowledge in defense does not mean no fight. I mean, you literally have to defend yourself. Like,
they're space samurai.
Yeah. But yeah, Yoda had every tool in his arsenal to fight back Sidious. The only reason he failed in Revenge of the Sith was because of his size. Like, that stalemate literally just blew him back further than Sidious.
But we do love a short king.
Yeah.
No one ever gives Palpatine his flowers, though, because, like, especially after reading the Then Fall Sidious, like, he's like, listen, I was not a chosen one. I was not a creation of the Force. I was just a dude, and he became a beast. And no one ever... He, in arguably more than a human's lifespan, because he got pretty damn old. But, like, he matched up against the 800-year-old Grand Master of the
Right.
Jedi. You know what I mean?
But Cal brings up a good point. With so much loss and pain.
Oh yeah, no, he was not a happy person.
Like, literally, I don't know how anybody else would feel, but if you were 800 years old and you had the power to feel things through the galaxy like Yoda does, like, come on, in the High Republic, he's like, oh, help you need, okay, here's your help with the Tibetan gas canister. If you were on Kashyyyk and you felt your entire order almost almost completely get wiped out, and you feel all of this drag the force down, you know. But again, like the dark side was never more powerful. It was just more sadistic, more sinister, like more outwardly theatrical.
Yeah.
And just like Choco said, even if someone had reached that 100% enlightenment with the light side, it would not manifest itself in like this nuclear bomb of a power. It would just be like, oh, you shine bright like a diamond.
Why?
I mean, but like again, like you said, the Superman problem, he like literally pulls his punches. He doesn't, he can't fully do anything without like exploding someone's body. Like, it's the same way as Spider-Man. He you know, he pulls his punches because he knows a full punch from his full punch would definitely
it would pierce.
kill someone. Yes.
It wouldn't knock them back. It would just go.
Yeah. But I mean, this actually is kind of relative to the Bad Batch, because like, no, it's not. I was reading Cal's message. Sorry for the tangent. Like, this is not really a tangent. It goes straight into Bad Batch. Like, no, it doesn't. But as we move on to one of our final topics, I know we hit on this last week a little bit on tech, but I really need to know from the chat and from everybody watching whether or not we think that tech is going to survive this as tech. Or do you think that Hunter dies and tech is the one to do it?
Oh, I never even considered that.
I'll let you consider it.
Oh, why?
Listen,
okay.
I've been thinking about, like, really quickly, just to give you some thoughts. Like, I've been thinking about whether or not tech comes back from being Bug Eyes, or if the crux of this final season is that tech is not redeemable like Crosshair is. What is the consequence of that? Well, we have an impending death coming down the pipeline. How is that going to happen? It's not going to be consequential. It's not going to be impactful if, like, Hunter just dies from a stray bullet on his way from escaping. Someone's going to do it. Now, obviously, there are some thoughts out in the cosmic force that all tech really needs is cognitive recalibration. But what if? What if this is the thing that causes the Bad Batch to, I wouldn't say disband, but rather kind of
perish?
Yeah, perish. Do we have confirmation that Bug Eyes is tech? No, we're still speculating as much, but it makes sense. But go for it. I know I'm getting a lot of resistance in the chat.
Again, you know, my mind goes to like the narrative value of it, and I could see it of him being the one to take out one of them or show that they're playing for keeps. It would hurt me if the clone that I identify with the most gets done like that. But I mean, the only thing I could see is that they've been trying this. The methods that they did with Crosshair was not completely effective. Mm-hmm. So they would have to go to the most extreme, and I could see them essentially wiping his mind, maybe using the mind flayer.
Yeah. That's the thing that I've been thinking about this whole time is reconditioning doesn't work. But they could totally like wipe his mind, his memories, and he doesn't know anything. He's starting from a complete slate, but he's still the skillful tech that we know. And Kenny says in the chat, I'm sure it's Cody. Tech makes no sense. I could see the writers playing into it, but in the end, it will be Cody who's in the black armor.
I don't see how Cody makes any sense.
Yeah, Tech so
now. There is a narrative thread that Cody disappeared, and we assumed. I mean, it means either he ran away or he was like taken to their black site for operation or whatnot. But I just don't see Cody as having been a big enough person to the Bad Batch themselves for that to happen. And we also have to keep in mind that Bad Batch is Jen Corbett's baby, not necessarily Dave Filoni. Because like if it was Dave Filoni, he wouldn't care about the character's relevance to the story at hand, and he would throw in Cody, who was in one episode. But I don't see Jen doing that.
Yeah. So as Master James says on the TikTok side, Cody does have history with them, but again, there's no narrative consequence to just throw like Choco said, throwing Cody in for that one thing. And the reason why I put Tech in this very impossible situation is because the show is called The Bad Batch. It's not the Clone Wars Season 8. And the most consequential and the most emotional thing that needs to happen is between the Bad Batch, the members. And we've had Crosshair redeemed. We've had Crosshair's I'll be a good soldier and follow orders. And we've gone through several seasons of him going through trauma, going through, the consequences of his making to come back to where he is. But what makes emotional sense, having allegedly lost Tech, for him to come back and be the thing that kind of splinters the Bad Batch?
I mean, what is the question that's being answered, by the character? And I think it would be what makes them a member of the Bad Batch. If it's the same shell, but that person's not there anymore, are they still a member? Do they still care for him? I think that would be interesting, especially if he also has a bunch of cybernetic parts because he's the first Dark Trooper.
Yeah. And Dina says, it makes me think about what Hemlock said, referring to a clean slate. I didn't even think about that. Thank you, Dina.
Yeah.
But it all makes sense. Kenny says, same can be said with Book of Boba Fett and Ahsoka. One was Mando season 2.5 and the other was Rebels season 5. I'm gonna hard disagree with you on that one. Ahsoka was not Rebels season 5 at all. And when you look at Book of Boba Fett, that show is being squeezed into. It's a spin-off. It's being squeezed into the Mando verse,
which is why it was done in chapters and not episodes.
And it's not, and the Bad Batch is not part of a larger universe. It may have connective tissue to the sequels, but it's not the Bad Batch universe. Like, there's no other shows around here that we're trying to finagle around. There's no spin-off that says Ventress, and then like Ventress is having her story, but intertwines with the Bad Batch at certain points. It's just the Bad Batch.
It's just a connected universe. This is just people are going to show up. If especially Book of Boba Fett. Yeah, we had an episode that was straight up like a Mando episode dropped in the middle of it, but that episode wasn't part of the narrative of the Book of Boba Fett. It was just to explain why Mando's going to be in the next episode.
Yeah.
But I also blame that mostly on scheduling issues and the lack of Rangers of the New Republic. Yeah, they shift around some story details to make sure things chronologically lined up.
But I also think it's a circumstance of it being Mandoverse. You have Ahsoka, you have Mando, and you have Book of Boba Fett. and like you said, with the lack of the Rangers of the New Republic, all of these shows that were set in the same time period that were supposed to be kind of like your Arrow,
Intertwined,
Flash,
yeah.
and stuff. Whereas the Bad Batch is its own. It's connected, but the Bad Batch is its own show, and something that I came to realize with the last episode is that we have no subplots. All of the episodes we've seen thus far of the Bad Batch has been the main plot, and we've not diverted. The only deviation we've actually had was in season 2 because Crosshair was a subplot. Crosshair's betrayal was, okay, we're following the Bad Batch, but let's see what Crosshair's up to. This time, he's back with them, and the main plot is this, and we have no subplot. We didn't.
What if Tech comes back, but he also has Palpatine DNA?
Oh God.
But
Palpatech.
But he's not force sensitive. He was the experiment that didn't retain the M count. But he's just kind of extra theatrical.
No. I don't know.
Cal says, part of me feels like if they just bring Tech back, it kind of undermines the moment from season 2. But if they do it in a darker fashion, that does work. So I can see it.
Hey,
being
don't cut
done
him off there. He said even thinking about it hurts.
Yeah.
And that's why they would do it. Because they suck. They always want us to hurt.
Yes. It's all about bringing the trauma. But I also, one thing I will say though is like bringing a character back can undermine the loss of them, but not how they died. You know what I mean? Like Tech still sacrificed himself to complete the mission. Like that happened, and so that I don't believe that gets lessened.
Yeah, they do. They are where they are because of his sacrifice. Like that doesn't change anything because he comes back.
But I mean, I have to say, Hemlock, shows up with the glasses, meaning he's recovered the body, and they're in the middle of Project Necromancer. So
Yes.
I feel like, and if there's one thing they are not short on, it's cloned DNA right now.
Now here's another question. Then, if it is part of Project Necromancer, if Hemlock recovered his body, but it was in fact dead, does he bring Tech back with a clean slate to, number one, like I said, kill Hunter, number two, just to give them their just to stay their hand, because it's not Tech, it looks like Tech, right? It's like a strand cast with Tech's body. That's the clean slate we're looking for. Like, it's not that Tech doesn't remember. Is that Tech's body is just in appearance what they're using.
That's too sad to think about. I prefer
Tech to be alive.
I mean, it's just a matter of semantics. I prefer it not to be like something else is in Tech's body, but it's just him, just with the frying pan cleaned all the way.
Kenny says Tech is Snoke. Someone come at me with the Photoshop of Snoke with Tech's glasses on. see if that.
I want someone to do an edit of Snoke, but talking like Tech.
Let's see. You were unbalanced. Bested by a girl who had never held a lightsaber, you failed. But I understand.
The odds of her beating you were... I don't know why I started talking like a 1920s radio announcer. That was weird.
I thought you were trying to do Lando for a second. The odds. It's Tech with a newer version of an inhibitor chip and a Tech Vader all abilities of the batch. Wait, what? It's tech with newer version of the inhibitor chip and a tech.
So basically, the Bad Batch ends the same way as Secret Invasion.
Yeah.
Tech's gonna flex and have a big giant arm for no reason. God, that show had a weird ending.
So, what have we concluded? Do you think there's this chance that Tech could do it? Tech's the one.
If they're going to do it, Tech makes sense. But don't hate me with this. He also could end up being responsible for, like Basher.
Oh my gosh! I totally forgot. You and your ass said that in the first episode. I was like, "How can you have that thought?" And you were like,
Okay.
"Oh, it's natural."
No, okay, but that being, I mean, I could definitely see a situation where like Tech is coming, he is going to take out Hunter, and Crosshair has his sights on him, but Crosshair can't shoot.
Here's the thing:
And
Crosshair
and
can't
Omega
Crosshair
has to
can't
take the
shoot,
shot.
but when he gets the resolve to, he misses.
Yeah, that's what I'm fully expecting. He gets
Plot
resolved
twist.
to kill his brother.
Tech kills Omega.
But
Yeah,
he can't do it. Oh, who said that?
Kenny said
Oh.
that.
No.
Coloring-
So yeah, he goes to shoot, and he misses the shot. And yeah, I maintain it. Omega has to make the shot. Has to choose to make the shot.
Oh, that's even worse.
And Tech with Palpatine DNA says, "You must choose."
Do you think Omega has the strength to do that? And do you think that's how Hunter dies? Because she can't. No, think about it.
That would be really painful if Hunter dies because she can't do it. Because in that moment, she's the only one that can, but can't. And she's like, I know what I have to do, but I don't know if I have the strength to do it.
Yeah, because think about it. In these last couple of episodes that we've been, I don't know why it's giving me trouble. We've watched, like Omega has been.
Man, this is bumming me out.
Omega has been making the argument all this time. Like, you're my brother. I'm not going to give up. You know? She doesn't give up on Crosshair, brings him back. She sees Tech about to shoot Hunter. Tech is also her brother. She's not going to give up. But at the same time, oh man, I'm seeing the chat. Like, I'm seeing Dina say the shot takes out both of them. So like, she hesitates long enough for Tech to take the shot, for her to take the shot, and it takes out Tech, and Tech takes out Hunter, and Omega is left with Echo, Wrecker, and Crosshair just staring
And
into
Batcha.
the void. And no, Batcher dies because of you. because you said it. Yeah. No, this is some depressing stuff, guys. I think that.
And then she goes and hides out on Octo.
I think at the end of the day, we're going to reach a point where the Bad Batch is fractured.
Is
or
the
is
Sad
no more.
Batch. Like that's we're heading towards the Sad Batch, guys. I don't know what to tell you. It's coming. But it won't be as bleak as we're making it. We're just preparing you. And so yeah, your heart will be like, you know what? We've thought of worse.
Yeah. You got to think of the worst possible scenario so that when the better option happens, you're like, oh, thank God.
By the way, we already know how the whole show ends, right? Fee is going to pick up Omega, and they're going to go off on adventures hunting treasure with their grandpa clones in the back.
Yeah. I think the one thing that is kind of shaping my speculation right now is that the Bad Batch is nowhere to be found in the future timeline, and that is either because they're off doing something or because they're not. They're gone. Of course, it's a very morbid way of thinking, but you know, I think someone asked in the chat, what do you think Omega's future is? I think as hard as it is for me to say, I think Omega's future is alone.
No, her future is not alone. She's not alone.
I think it is.
Her
Not alone,
biggest...
not alone as in like isolated, like alone as in like especially the Bad Batch having accelerated growth.
Okay, I mean, which I definitely get, but we also saw that there are still like young clones and stuff in different places, and there's a lot. Her current biggest thing is trying to save the rest of the clones, where her sphere has shifted outside of just the Bad Batch. She wants to save everyone, including Emery, who was about to turn her in. So I can see her as being, you know, part of the path. And the path not only helps out Force sensitives, but it also gets clones clear.
I can see that. So what you're saying is the shot heard around the world took out Tech, Hunter, and because he got so angry,
JFK.
And because he got so angry, Wrecker pressed the detonator and all the clones died as well. That's what you're saying?
Yes. Mount Tantus took off like a rocket ship and then turned around and then crashed back on its planet.
So she loses Hunter and the clones that she was trying to save and Tech. And Crosshair is like, oh. Awesome. Well, as fate would have it, we have 3 minutes left, and we've also just gone down the saddest hole ever possible for the Bad Batch. So hopefully you guys come out on top thinking happy thoughts and possibly the better choice out of the many sad choices that we've posited today. Kylo Ren even says Tech detonates himself in the moment of brief strength, taking out all of the clones as well as himself. I'm completing everyone's sentence here to make it as sad as possible. But essentially, what's up, Joseph Barons? If you're tuning in just now, you know, our thoughts as of right now is Tech comes back, but he's the one that takes out Hunter. And Omega can't take the shot, so she takes out Tech after Hunter, and they both die. And we're left with the Sad Batch. Mm-hmm. And it's Crosshair, Wrecker, and Echo, and Omega.
And yes, Thane has gotten quite large. Hey, you're good.
It's giving us the old evil eye.
All right.
Glizzy McGuire asks, is Tanalorr coming under attack in the next Kestis story?
Glizzy McGuire?
I don't think so. I think they've done that already. Like spoiler alert for Survivor, if they're gonna do the whole Seer Junda and her base being attacked again, I think it's a little bit silly.
I have no clue where they're going to go with the Tanalorr storyline. If they're just going to be outside. Sorry, Suki's acting up.
I wonder if Crimson Dawn will show up in the show. I don't think so. I think we're gonna see Cad Bane. We're going to see Fennec Shand. We're gonna see Asajj and maybe possibly Quinlan Voss. But I don't think Crimson Dawn in and of itself, or like Kira, or even at this time right now, it's still Maul, I believe. So I don't think that's something that is something to consider for now. I think it's intimately a Bad Batch story, and I think all of the losses will come at the hands of the Bad Batch, as sad as it is to say.
One thing I do love is how this show has handled its visitors and cameos. Like, there hasn't been a single time where it's felt out of place,
Yeah. But we're about the hour and 30 mark, which means we are out of time on this episode of Dyad and the Force 162, talking about episode 5. I think we hit the nail on the head, man, with our predictions for the upcoming episodes. Now there's still 15 episodes in this season, so there's still a lot of story to tell, and I think the next episode is going to give us that story. We're going to start, just like I said, it's not a subplot. We're gonna visit either Cad Bane, Fennec, and Ventress, and see how their stories connect to the main plot. And we're getting 2 episodes next week. So again, every time they drop a bundle, that bundle has to explain,
that bundle's got the heat,
beginning, middle, and end of something,
which is going to be Ventress.
Yes. So perhaps we're gonna get Dark Disciple. Who knows? I know that, like, if we do get like a shortened version of the latter half of Dark Disciple, that'd be really cool. But I don't have my Sharpie. I have a chopstick. I have chapstick to throw in case Quinlan Voss shows up. But thank you once again. Thank you, Deadpool, for the 10 roses, Doza for the rose, Connor for all the roses, and Master James for the team bracelet. Thank you to guys in the chat on TikTok side. Thank you to the YouTube side for hanging out and sticking through my sadness hour as I present and posit the most traumatic endings of the Bad Batch. But we do this so that what really happens isn't so bad, but Choco, do you have any final thoughts before we end?
Whether the Bad Batch remains the Bad Batch or becomes the Sad Batch, they're always going to be the best Dad Batch, and you can take solace in that.
Right on. All right, well, that'll do it for this episode of Dyad and Force. On to the next one.
For light and for life.
We are all the Dyad.
And Tech, please don't kill Hunter. May the Force be with you.
Omega, please kill Tech.